Okay, welcome. We are just on phase 4 of our top of our table, and I have all my parts cut for the top, which includes the 4 top frame pieces and then the 3 tile supports. My tile's right flush and my miters are good, and I've chosen the top of my boards. So now I'm supposed to mark out the number 10 biscuit slots on the underside. So what I need to do is basically flip this assembly upside down. I'm going to flip this guy here. So I want to do this upside down so that all my biscuits are going to line up exactly how I want them on the underside. And I always mark the middle of my biscuits. So with the corners, I'm going to find the middle. So this is 4 5/8. So 2 5/16. And I'll mark it on both boards with a nice little tick. Now when I'm marking the slots for the tile supports, what I'll need to do is mark the middle of my tile support. So this is 2 1/4. The middle of that would be 1 1/8. And then I need to line up that slot with the diagram here, which says from the corner, I'm going to do it 2 1/4 here. And that way these 2 slots will align with each other, spacing it out nice and evenly. Then for this, to line up the middle tile support, I need to find the middle of this, and it was 11 7/8, so it might be tricky to find the middle of yours, but the middle of 11 is 5 1/2, and the middle of 7/8 is 7/16. So I'm all the way to 5 15/16. So a little bit of math, and I found it. So mark out all your biscuits. It also might be a good idea to put some little numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that way, if your parts get mixed up or put away, you'll be able to line up corner 1, corner 2, corner 3, and also with your tile supports, just to make sure your slots align exactly the way they should. Once I have all my biscuit slots marked out perfectly, then I'm going to grab the biscuit out of the tool cabinet. And I'm going to make sure it's set up. Basically I need to set the height and I need to set the depth. We are going to use number 10 biscuits, so this dial will be to number 10. In terms of the depth, I want it about in the middle of my board or so, but I need to use the tile supports, and it looks to be quite good. So just make sure it's going to hit near the middle. It doesn't matter that it's exactly, as long as it doesn't get changed while you're doing your biscuit holes. So I'm going to plug it in. It's got a sharp spinning blade, but it's well protected in there. And then I like to clamp my pieces in when I'm making biscuit slots. Here I need to make sure this stays flat. I'm going to line up the red with my tick that marks the middle of my slot. Get the blade spinning and then plunge it all the way till it stops and come back. And here I have a biscuit slot in this end and a biscuit slot in this end. For these 2 other ones, I'll need to make more biscuit slots to hold the tile supports. Just move my clamp so that I can access these last 2. And just continue making all your slots, but make sure it stays flat and you get a good slot so that when it comes time to put the biscuits in, they go where they should go, and they do what they should do, which is hold the joint together and make sure things stay aligned and good. So make all your biscuit slots, then we'll get the biscuits and we'll glue this thing together. And just a reminder that you're doing the underside of all these parts. They're going to get flipped over, and that way your tile will align with the top of your table. The ends can be a little tricky, but just clamp it carefully and do it the way it should be done. Okay, once I've made all my biscuit slots and I'm ready to assemble, what I want to do is just sand it down so that it looks as nice as possible, because it'll be trickier to sand once it's assembled. The only thing I don't want to do is lose which corner aligned with which corner, so I'm going to write that on the insides of the corner. And that way when I sand these parts down, I can lose those numbers, and then I can assemble it with glue and biscuits. Okay, so I got my biscuit slots in, and I've sanded all my parts. Now I just like to blow out my biscuit slots, make sure there's no sawdust in them, and get ready for assembly. But before I assemble, I have to take my 4 top frames, making sure I've marked my corners so I know which ones are go where, and I know where the top and the bottom is. And I have to make chamfers all the way around the top edges. Now be careful here, because if you screw this up, it's not going to work out. Remember, the top was the underside. So we'll take these 4 pieces to the router and we'll router the tops of them. Okay, so I'm ready to router my top frames, and I want to do the full top edge. If you are confused about what the top and what is the bottom, remember the miter or the biscuit slots are near the bottom because they need to align with tile supports. So the top would be here, and that's going to go down. All the way around the outside top, and I'll do all 4 of my top frames and then be ready to go assemble my whole top piece. Okay, so I've cut all my top pieces, including my tile supports, my 4 top frames, and now I'm ready to glue the whole assembly together. And before you just start spreading glue everywhere and trying to get it going, really think ahead. Glue ups are a skill. So I get everything ready and try to think of all the issues that might arise and then be ready to deal with them. So I have my corners numbered like I wanted. My tops are chamfered, 3 and 3. 2 and 2. 4 and 4. And then my tile supports go in here. Now this is a little tricky in terms of a glue up, so think ahead and try to just do it in steps at a somewhat efficiently so it all works out in the end. So I'm first going to put in these biscuits in the ends. Number 10 biscuits are here in the top drawer. We need 8 of them. That's a lie. I think you need 10 of them. 3, 6, and 4 more is 10. I just about put one tile support upside down, and that really would have messed up my height. So I'm glad I caught that mistake. So really be careful. Just enough glue, a little bit in the slot, a little bit on the miter on both ends, and then I'm going to put it together, and I want to really make sure it doesn't squeeze out the top. If there is any spots that are going to become an issue, I like to wipe them as soon as possible. And now I'm just lining up my miters as best I can. Make sure everything's the way I want it. Get things as tight as possible. Okay, after trying to use some bar clamps, I just wasn't happy with the way it was working out. So I'm going to decide to switch to a band clamp. And these can be a little tricky, but once you learn how to use them, they're very useful in terms of clamping picture frame style things, such as this. Okay, once it's clamped, you can leave it to dry for about an hour.